Hey everybody, welcome back to Kiki Loves Nigeria. On this episode of Kiki Loves Nigeria, we're going to talk about a story that takes place in West Africa, in the Gambia. This is a story of a couple, and we're going to call them Miss Lady and Mr. Man. After conducting some research on the internet, Miss Lady and Mr. Man decided that they wanted to retire in West Africa. They knew they wanted to retire in either Sierra Leone or the Gambia. They just weren't sure which one. So they planned to visit them both to see which one they liked the best. So they decided they would go on a tour to check them both out. After touring West Africa, when they went back to relocate, unfortunately, things were not as they seemed when they went for their visit, and people were not as they appeared to be. And unfortunately, this nearly 20-year-old marriage would come to an end in the Gambia, with Mr. Man staying in the Gambia while Miss Lady came back. Now let me tell you this story. So this is the story of a love story that went horribly wrong in the Gambia. So there was this couple, you guys, who had been married for nearly 20 years. And the husband had decided it was time for him to retire. So he retired. He had always wanted to relocate to West Africa. So he told his wife, let's retire to West Africa. Now that I can retire, let's just go ahead and do it. And let's just, check out some countries. Let's research some countries and let's just check them out and go visit and see what we can find. This was in 2021 that they decided they would explore West Africa. So that spring, they went on their first trip to Sierra Leone. They decided they would travel with Dinah Samir on one of his tours to Sierra Leone. So they liked Sierra Leone. They said it was okay. But Miss Lady and Mr. Man did not want to make a decision that they would stay in Sierra Leone without first traveling to the Gambia. Upon arriving in the Gambia, they decided that they really, really liked the Gambia. And one of the main reasons that they really liked the Gambia was the Repat community. You know that Repat community you see on YouTube, led by Black Acres of the Gambia? I like to call them No Acres. Well, they were watching them, and they were watching the other Repats in the Gambia, and they were listening to them. So when they got to the Gambia, they decided they wanted to meet those people that they saw on YouTube that had encouraged them to come to the Gambia and not only visit Gambia, but repatriate to Gambia. After watching these people on YouTube, Mr. Man and Miss Lady wanted to meet these people. They wanted to talk to these people about their experiences in the Gambia, and they wanted to know if they truly recommended that people relocate there. So that's what they did. They set out to meet with Eric and Nicole from the Soul Food Joint. Remember, I did a video about them. They set out to meet with Black Acres. They set out to meet with the Arrival. Miss Lady and Mr. Man. Oh, and there was another one. Our Exodus, Our Journey Towards Eden. I think that's what it's called. And she also said the Family Exodus. So she said all of these people were really encouraging, telling them to come to the Gambia. And it just really seemed like they had a really strong support network in the Gambia, and that the African Americans were really united in the Gambia. And this was just basically a home away from home. This was a new home in the Gambia, and the Repats were sticking together, and there was a community there that you could depend on if things got hard. So this is what led them to make their final decision that the Gambia would be their new home. So they stayed in the Gambia for almost a month, And they interacted with the Repat community, and everything was lovely. Everything was fine. So they couldn't wait to get back to the United States so they could prepare to come back to the Gambia, but not to visit this time, but to relocate. So once they got back to the United States, they sold their house, they shipped all of their household goods to the Gambia, and 5 months later, in August, guess what, people? They arrived in the Gambia. They were living in the Gambia, and they were starting their new lives. But the first thing that they noticed is that this Repat community that it seemed to be so unified when they were visiting there, that same Repat community that encouraged them to relocate there, did not seem so unified once they relocated there. Once they relocated to the Gambia, they said that Repat community was nothing like they appeared to be when they were visiting. Miss Lady and Mr. Man said one of the things that they really noticed when they relocated to the Gambia is that there was no support system there. There was no help network there. That if you had a crisis, you were on your own. And that's what they were not expecting. They were expecting a support network there when they arrived, because that's what the YouTube content creators told them. That when you get there, we have each other's back. We'll be there to help you. We'll be there if things get tough. But once they got there, Mr. and Miss Lady said, Mr. Man and Miss Lady said, it was every man for himself. There was no support to be found. Mr. Man and Miss Lady said that friendliness that they presented to them when they were visiting, that friendliness wasn't real. That when they came back to relocate, that friendliness was gone. There was no friendliness to be found. And they were so disappointed, because what the image that they presented to them of the Repat community and what the Gambia was going to be like for them, that was not the reality of the situation. That was not what was really going on in the Gambia. Needless to say, Miss Lady and Mr. Man were extremely disappointed once they arrived and they saw that this friendliness was just a facade of distance, that the Repat community really has nothing to do with each other. And another thing that they noticed that no one ever told them about, and not one of the Repats warned them about, was the number of marriages that had ended, the number of long-term relationships that had been destroyed once those couples relocated to the Gambia. No one ever mentioned that to Miss Lady or Mr. Man. So they never imagined that once they got there, that once they joined the Repat community in the Gambia, that once they completed their Repat journey, they never imagined that that journey would cost them their marriage. They never imagined that it would end their relationship. Miss Lady never imagined that her beloved husband would no longer be her husband. Miss Lady was devastated when their marriage ended in the Gambia, when he decided to stay in the Gambia and she came back. Miss Lady said she left everything. She left everything in the Gambia and she just left and came back to the United States. She said she was so heartbroken when her husband stayed and their plans to relocate became a nightmare. Once her and her husband separated, she said there was no reason for her to stay in the Gambia. That relocation to Africa was never her plan. It was always his plan. She was just supporting him in his dream. And what really shocked her the most, she said, was that Repat community that she had supported financially, that Repat community that she had supported personally when she was in the diaspora, once she got there was no one there to help her. There was no one there to warn her. There was no one there to support her. She continued to voice her disappointment. Over and over again, all she could say was how disappointed she was with the Repat community. After the separation, like I said, Miss Lady decided it was best for her to come back. Mr. Man, he was the one who had retired, remember? So they were living off of his retirement income. And see, since he stayed in the Gambia, you know what that means. All of the money stayed in the Gambia. So Miss Lady had to go to work, come back to the States, and she had to get a job. She had to get a job and support herself because the husband who she had planned to spend her future with, the rest of her life with, decided he was no longer going to support her. So, Miss Lady is now in the States working. Her husband is still in the Gambia. He's still in the Gambia, and he's still living his Repat dream, while Miss Lady is here in the United States, having to start her entire life over again. Because remember, people, they sold their house. They shipped everything they had to the Gambia. So she doesn't even have a home to come back to. I don't know where Miss Lady is living. I don't know. I can't even imagine. I'm sure when she first got back here, she had to live with relatives. Now imagine that, people. You've been married for almost 20 years. Then now you got to come back to the United States and you got to stay with somebody? Because it took her some time, I'm sure, to find a place. First, she had to get a job. She had to basically get on her feet. She basically had to start all over from zero. This is a Repat's nightmare. Nobody talks to us about this, but you all, I remember I have gotten several emails telling me that this occurs in the Gambia, in the Repat community, on the regular. But you never hear any of the Repats talking about it. You never hear any of the Repats warning you that you got to watch your husbands, you got to watch your wives once you get to the Gambia, because there's always somebody out there to take them. There's always somebody out there trying to grab your husband. The husband snatcher and the wife snatcher is alive and well in the Gambia. But none of the Repats ever tell you that. None of the Repats ever tell you that. And it's true. And these husband and wife snatchers, y'all, they're usually in their 20s. In their 20s or younger. And I kid you not. In their 20s or younger. Because you got to remember, they're looking for somebody to support them. That's all they're looking for. They're not looking for nobody to love them. They're looking for somebody to support them. And what does a retiree from the United States mean? Money, money, money. Money. Y'all think I'm playing? How many stories I done given showed y'all that the bottom line, the what and the why these things happen, the bottom line, it's all about money, people. It's all about the money. Because remember, we already talked about a retiree's income, that when that retiree passes away, what do? You get survivor spouse income. So you're going to get the retiree income or the survivor spouse income, whichever one is higher. But you'll be paid. You will be paid. And if you're in your 20s, you're going to be paid for a long, long time. So these retirees over there thinking that this is love. This isn't love. They walking away from love to somebody who's just using them for an income. Using them for an income. So what I would advise you to do, Miss Lady, I would advise you to get a lawyer. And I would advise you to tell your story to a lawyer. And I would advise you to file for a divorce. And I would advise you to file for spousal support. Because he cannot just walk away from nearly a 20-year marriage because he met somebody new in the Gambia, or because he just wanted to start all over fresh in the Gambia. It just doesn't work like that. And leaving you high and dry, where you got to start completely over with nothing. No, it doesn't even work like that in Africa. It certainly doesn't work like that in America. So, Miss Lady, please take care of your business and get you a lawyer to help you. All right, good people. That's all I have for y'all right now. I want y'all to tell me what y'all think about this situation. Why do y'all think somebody would walk away from a 20-year relationship because they want to start something new in the Gambia? I just can't even believe it. So tell me what y'all think. What y'all think was the cause of the breakup? Because Miss Lady didn't really go into detail, and I didn't want to ask because I didn't want to pry. I just listen when people talk. I don't ask questions. I just listen. So, y'all tell me what y'all think. Drop y'all comments below. And y'all tell me what could have caused a 20-year marriage to break up once they arrive to start their new life in the Gambia. And why don't you think these repats warn them? Why don't you think these repats are warning us about what happens to our relationships once we arrive in the Gambia? Why don't you think they're telling us the truth about that? All I can say is just lies upon lies upon lies. And it's like my grandmother said, misery loves company. So, okay, y'all drop y'all comments and y'all tell me what y'all think. What y'all think happened. Because I can just sit here off the top of my head and name 2 people on YouTube that I've talked about that they're not even together anymore. Eric and Nicole, you know they're not together anymore. And Molly Morris, they're not together anymore. So see, these are 2 people who are on YouTube that we know of, that they're not together anymore, that they went their own separate ways after having a long-term marriage and going to the Gambia. So how many more is it, people? How many more is it that they haven't told us about? What is really going on in the Gambia? Y'all tell me. All right, I'll talk to y'all later.